This is for everyone watching who had bad things happen in childhood and who thinks that maybe that pattern of ongoing trauma-driven behavior that you can't stop, the hurtful people you let into your life, the rejection that you faced without even knowing why, that maybe it's just gone on so long that it's too late to stop it. Do you think that? So many people write to me asking, do I think it's too late at 85, at 65, at 35 years old, if you can believe it? They ask if I think it's just too late to heal. And my answer is always the same. It is never too late. Healing is a shift of consciousness that can happen right now. Yes, healing is a process, and yes, when the trauma is still going on, it's hard to get your bearings enough to change anything. But the good thing that happens, that inner shift where things start getting better, is always very near to you. And for those of you who feel pessimistic about that, who think that your best chance was when you were younger, I want to tell you why your older self might be in the best position you've ever been in to start healing from your childhood trauma. And there's a reason why, if you're still affected by trauma, that it didn't happen when you were younger, that it didn't fall into place. That's really common. All right, reasons. First of all, trauma wasn't understood when you were young, all right? It wasn't understood hardly at all. They had it wrong. It's only beginning to be understood now. And those of us who've caught on to the revelations about how trauma works, that it's a neurological injury, that especially when it happened when you were a child, it changes your brain. When you don't heal that, you can't heal anything else. So you've probably been, go do this method and go do therapy and go talk about it. And when your brain is unhealed and it's all dysregulated, those things usually don't work. And that may have been your experience and led to this cynicism you have about yourself, that nothing is possible, something's wrong with you, the stuff that's supposed to work doesn't work for you. If it didn't work for you, I have great news. You're normal. You're normal for a person who was traumatized as a kid. For a lot of us, talking about our trauma, especially as sort of like the primary way that we were expected to recover, it just didn't work. And that's because talking uses a part of our brain that can end up re-triggering the old traumatic memory. It can actually start creating so much chaos in here that you can't really hear information, you can't process it. Even if you have some great revelation while you're talking about stuff, you won't remember it the next day, right? So I don't know about you, but learning what trauma really is was utterly game-changing for me. Everything changed. A lot of lessons that I had learned in the past, a lot of progress that I had made about how to interact with people, how to avoid new traumas, how to change my thinking. Like finally, I could consistently apply those lessons. I could put them into action when I learned to heal my brain, and you can too. And if you don't know how to do that yet, I'll get into that in this video, so stay with me. But let's look at what was standing in the way. So yes, the science wasn't there back in the day. And in fact, there was more prevailing wisdom that turned out to be wrong. Not only did talking about it turn out to be difficult for many of us, but this common pattern of treatment where maybe your insurance gives you 10 visits with a therapist, you go in and you talk about what happened, it's all coming up, you're all triggered, and if you're not better by 10 visits, then you're sent over to take medication, right? Now, a lot of people need medication, I'm not knocking that, but we now know that for CPTSD, it doesn't usually connect, it doesn't actually solve the problem, and in fact, because one of the core underlying problems with CPTSD is brain dysregulation, brain, nervous system, emotional dysregulation. And that's where things are out of whack. Everybody gets dysregulated. Everybody gets discombobulated or freaked out, right? You can think of a newborn baby just like, ah! And then the way a baby calms down, right? A baby calms down. That's re-regulation. So you can teach yourself. You know how to re-regulate. You've done it many times. But maybe you can't do it as easily and quickly as you need to. And you can teach yourself to do that. There's a free course I teach. I referred to it earlier in here. It's called The Daily Practice. It can help with that. And there'll be a link to that below in the description section for this video and all my videos. It's free and it takes less than an hour to learn. You can start learning to practice re-regulation, and then you're not so freaked out. And when you're not dysregulated, you can begin to think clearly. Another thing you may have been told is that the symptoms of your trauma that were not recognized as symptoms of trauma, you may have been told it was a chemical imbalance, and you adopted that idea that there was some sort of imbalance in the chemicals in your brain and you needed to have more chemicals in you to do that. That is occasionally true for people. Sometimes that's true. But for trauma, it's usually not the case. It's not a chemical imbalance. Again, it's dysregulation. And likewise, you may have been told you just need to pull yourself together, or you just need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And I'm going to bet $100 you want to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You want to not be sad. You want your life together, and you're willing to do anything you can at this point. Except that right now, maybe you're feeling like it's just too late. Why even try? All right. So I'm going to tell you another reason why you may be in a better position to work on your healing than you were when you were younger. When you were younger, so much of your energy was commanded and driven toward the life goals of finding a partner, getting money, maybe having children, right? Not everybody did those things, but those drives, they really can push you. They can push you and prevent you from being able to face either the bad choices, like picking a bad partner, for example, or making a terrible mistake. They can make you cling to a relationship that you feel like you must have. And when you get older, you're a little bit freer of that. And that can be a really good thing. I see a lot of people coming to Crappy Childhood Fairy somewhere in their late 40s to late 60s, where they're sort of crested over that like drivenness to try to solve their problems through a person or a job or an accomplishment. And that they begin to say, you know what, this thing is happening to me over and over again. It's maybe pushing people away, or I feel like isolating, or my emotions keep erupting and I feel like I should know better by now. That could be your CPTSD coming into focus for you. And what a blessing that is. Because when it's in focus and when you can see, when you have lived long enough to start seeing that the pattern is repeating and that the common denominator is you, right? What a blessing that is. Like, you need to know what the pattern is. That's so much what CPTSD involves, is a confusion of, is this being caused by someone outside myself? Or is this caused by me? And we're often like going back and forth. It's them, it's me, it's them, it's me. And we're not able to take smart action on it. The older you get, the more possibility you have by recognizing patterns. What is your part in those problems? And those are your golden possibilities right there, because if it's something that you're doing, you actually have the power to change it. What other people do is a lot dodgier. You can get away from those people maybe, but you can't really get away from people entirely. So the stuff where you see you have a pattern is a really wonderful thing to discover. And sometimes even if some pattern that you're creating is only 10% of your problem, if you can change that, it has a domino effect all around. Just, all your other problems start improving. All right? So hang in there. Persevere for that. And that is something that only time can really give us. When we're younger, it's easy to justify our problems. We can just be like, it's this person, it's society, it's my parents. And that's the thing when you begin to know it's you. And likewise, it's easy to think when you're young that something outside yourself will fix you. That's just a logical thought. And it's often a period of depression comes along with the recognition that, no one's going to come to save you, or that even though some person who used to make you so unhappy leaves your life or dies, that you're still struggling with the exact same problems. Like, that's a hard moment to face, but it takes you to that potent place where you realize that the problem is in here. And on some level, most problems are in here. So some symptoms heal with age. That happens. Sometimes the volatility or the feeling of injustice, you start to see so many things that you're just like, that's world problem number 42. I've seen this so many times. I'm not going to let it get me all upset. On the other hand, as we grow older, if we don't heal, there is a risk of our worst qualities getting worse and worse and worse. And those might typically be isolating from people, arrogance, like, have you ever known an older person who just knows everything? You can't really talk to them about anything without them knowing everything about that. And it's so easy to see from the outside, they really don't know everything. It's one of the greatest virtues there is to be open-minded and humble about that. Like, I don't know everything, and it's worth listening to people even when I disagree, because I don't know everything. One of the most toxic things that can happen as we grow older, and if we don't change, though, is bitterness. And we've all seen people like that. And bitterness takes root and starts to like grow these horrible slashing tentacles in all directions. It hurts other people and pushes them away, and it hurts ourselves and alienates us from ourselves, and it alienates us from reality. Because bitterness has a way of like taking your mind and distorting reality and making us kind of cuckoo. We all know people who have adopted an extremely bitter outlook, and the things that they believe are happening are just awful. And too often, this really terrible mindset is what leads people to do truly terrible things. So if you detect bitterness in yourself, I would give that a top priority to say, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to undo my bitterness, and instead I'm going to replace it with open-mindedness and gratitude and wonder. Now, many people out there will give you practices that they use and say, oh, you know, I got all this gratitude for stuff, and that's great. When you have CPTSD, it's often quite difficult to just manufacture gratitude where there was bitterness. And that's why I teach tools. You don't have to manufacture things like gratitude and appreciation and positivity. You don't have to. You can try. It is worth trying. But for me, when I just sit there and go, oh, I'm just going to be grateful, or I'm going to make a gratitude list, all by itself, that only gets me about this far. What gets me to gratitude is when I truly stop having the fearful and resentful beliefs that drive me, that are part of CPTSD, for me and for so many of us. Fearful and resentful thoughts. Dislodging and releasing those fearful and resentful thoughts is exactly where my approach to healing begins. You begin by focusing on the fear and resentment and getting it dislodged. And I have found that I've been able to teach this technique to kids, and kids can be very open-minded. Then when they're teenagers, they pull away, because I think part of the nature of youth is that you feel like if outer circumstances would change, everything would be great. It's very hard to recognize patterns of self, or there's a self-attack going on that's so completely wrong. You know, this terrible attack, I'm terrible, I'm ugly, that it's like a paralysis in terms of like identifying what the real barrier is to healing and changing and being able to work on it. So if you find you have bitterness in your heart, I'm going to suggest you make that your highest priority. And the techniques that I teach are going to help with that. So we're going to get to that, all right? So I just want to say, so many of my students come to me in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. There have been people in their 90s as well. And they come and they're ready. You know, now they're ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Because you care less now what other people think and you just want to be happy? Are you less driven by your life's agenda, the stuff that's driven by hormones, the romance, that you just want to have harmony with other people? Are you ready to have some clarity, to start to wake up to the fact that people are not really holding you back anymore? You can put down your weapons. You can take down the walls you've put up to keep other people away from you because it was so painful. Because you know what? There's nothing they can take from you anymore. The most powerful thing that aging brings to us is a sense of urgency. And that's reality. That's a reality we couldn't acknowledge at a younger age, but it's true. The end of life is out there. It's on the horizon. Maybe you can see it now. Maybe you've been put into a crisis where you have a terminal illness, and maybe the most central question of your life has come into focus, and it is, will you learn to love? If you really want to jumpstart your ability to love, to heal, don't put it off. Don't put it off. I don't care how young you are or how old you are. It's time. If you're even asking the question, that's the answer. It's time. You can make a real difference in how good you feel right now and in how things turn out for you by healing, by taking the actions, by having courage to do that. And you can do this whether or not you have professional help. I'm telling you, most people do not have professional help. And it's nice if you do, and it's fine if you don't. You can do this also without having to go and dredge up all the terrible things that ever happened to you. I don't know about you, but I've done that before. I don't want to do that again, and I've learned that I don't have any more answers than that. For me, and perhaps for you too, you'll identify with this, the growth lies in opening up to life right now as it is right now, all right? I don't need the painful memories. They're there. They will visit me. So what's the first step? You'll need a way to give yourself comfort around your emotions and your good nervous system, your good, sweet nervous system, who's been through so much in your life and who needs a little tender, loving care from you to recharge and recenter your body and your emotions and to start doing a lovely job of supporting you in all your experiences, right? Your thoughts, every breath you take, your nervous system is at play and it needs some healing now. So there are phases to healing, but just for starters, I invite you to try 2 simple techniques that you can use for free anytime to give yourself that inner healing, that comfort, that calm. So there's a link below. It's called The Daily Practice, and it really is free, no strings attached. You put in your email, the course will open for you. There's videos and worksheets you can follow and learn the techniques, and these are the techniques that allowed me to heal. They're very powerful. If you don't like them, you don't have to do them, but give them a try. You can learn and try them in less than an hour. And if you do sign up for the course, I'll be sending you invitations to join free calls with me. And they're truly free. They're Zoom calls. A couple hundred people come onto these calls each time, and they're lovely. We use the techniques together. It's a very specific but simple writing technique, and then a restful meditation, and we do that together, and then I take questions. So it's a way that you can get together with other people in the cause of healing, and I think you might like it. It's worth giving a try. Now, why do I suggest that instead of focusing on what happened to you, I draw your focus to your own reactions to things, your own behavior? And the answer is in a video that I've pulled for you. I invite you to come look at it right now. It's about self-sabotaging behaviors that can hold back your recovery. Check it out, and I will see you very soon.